All right, we're talking to Marine veteran Edgar Zavala, business coach. So, Edgar, take it away and start off by telling us what you did in the Marine Corps.
Yeah, so I was a diesel mechanic in the military, so I was 3521 and all I did is instead of fixing Humvees and 7 tons, I was actually breaking them and then making them even worse, right? But as a diesel tech, I worked on all the big tactical vehicles and I did that for about 4 years. I learned a lot doing that. I got stationed in a lot of different places, met a lot of different people, and I learned skill sets that, really helped me transitioning out. But yeah, diesel mechanic, it was fun. I'm the type of person, Joe, where I love troubleshooting. I love figuring things out. I love putting things together, breaking them apart, and it was fun doing it while in the military, you
Yeah.
know?
So, did you end up going when you got out? You ended up being a diesel mechanic on the outside.
Well, so no, so interesting enough, I like being a mechanic. I like working with my hands, but I'm also an adrenaline junkie, right? So, the military gave me that kind of like the adrenaline kind of rush. I just happened to be a diesel mechanic in the Marine Corps, but I ended up becoming a wind turbine technician. And so I was climbing wind turbines afterwards. I said, look, if I'm gonna get out, Joe, I don't want to be a police officer. I don't want to be a firefighter. I don't want to be a security guard. And I don't want to be a mechanic working at, a shop somewhere and, changing tires for a living. I said, what's the next big thing where I can use my hands and have some fun? And then all of a sudden, this opportunity came up, and I said, oh, let me climb this 300 to 500 foot tower and let me get still a good workout and be able to work some tools in my hands. And that's what I got into. And it's still the same kind of concepts, right? The same mechanics, the same, filters and, tools. And I just loved them. It was fun for the time being when I got into that.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, we were talking before the show, man. Especially those ones you have to climb up 300 feet on the outside. No way.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that.
Yeah, 300, 500 foot towers. And the tallest I climbed was 500 and the on average was about 300. So it was a good little workout for sure, Joe.
Yeah, manual, basically just vertical climb of 300 feet. So,
Yeah.
dang.
Yeah.
Um, So that was your transition job. So was your transition was actually pretty smooth. Did you get that job right out of the Marine Corps?
Well, yes and no. It's one of those things where like a lot of times what I tell a lot of people who are transitioning now is that you have to think at least 3 to 6 months ahead. Because I mean with everything in life, right? They say proper planning prevents poor performance.
Yep.
All the time. Proper planning prevents poor performance. And unfortunately, a lot of the time, a lot of service members, we procrastinate real badly. We're just procrastinators, Unless we're told exactly what to do, we're procrastinators and we procrastinate our disability. We procrastinate on our finances. We procrastinate on our careers, on transitioning.
Hmm.
And so I thought 3 to 6 months ahead, but luckily the military now has programs, like the TRS, Transitioning Readiness Seminar, where it gives you at least fundamentals on how to do a resume, how to make yourself more valuable to the marketplace, how to sell yourself. And they would bring in people like police officers, firefighters, border patrol,
Yeah.
renewables energy. And in that moment, I said, okay, well, I don't have a plan B. I know I want to get out, but I don't have a plan B. I don't know, sometimes you use the military as a stepping stone because you don't know what you want to do when you in a career path. And I said, wow, this is renewable energy guy. It's great income. It looks fun. And it's still in my realm of being a mechanic. So I talked to the recruiter. We set up the right stuff. And then I just had to stay on top of my assignments and my paperwork while checking out to get on track to go to the closest class after getting out. Because what happens is, Joe, a lot of people get out the military and they take a little hiatus before they figure out the next move. And that's where the laziness comes in. That's where the anxiousness comes in, the depression. That's where people lose themselves. I had some fellow Marines who they lost their identity after transitioning out the military because they had no next step or the next thing that was gonna take their attention. So for me, it was smooth because I made it smooth because I was super, super intentional about that, Joe.
Yeah. I think sometimes I notice young folks getting out and the younger generations as I'm getting older these days, they think linearly, like linear in a linear way. Like I'm doing this, and when that comes to an end, then I do the next thing, and then when that one comes, then I do the next thing. It's like you gotta have like multiple parallel things going on at all times because you don't know which ones are going to drop out, which ones are going to succeed. You got to be running multiple, like on a soundboard. You get moving all as many levers forward as you can at the same time. If you work in a linear world, when something comes to an abrupt end, you're SOL for months on end without a paycheck.
I agree 100%. And that's how many people operate, even besides the military. Just in general, most people operate in a very linear fashion.
Mhm.
And they tend to forget that you want to use things called leverage, or you want to keep your head on a swivel, like you said. So, yeah, I agree, Joe, 100%.
Yeah, constantly be looking left and right.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, back talking with Marine veteran Edgar Zavala. So, so you get out of the Marine Corps, pretty smooth transition. You're working as a wind turbine technician, making pretty good money, traveling, probably getting a lot per diem and everything going on. So, where'd this entrepreneurship thing come from?
Yeah, so and just to touch up on a little bit thing right there, Joe, when I was transitioning out, there was a lot of people who were afraid of me transitioning out because of the fact of it was stable, right? So that's one thing that I want to give just real quick that came to me right there, Joe, is that if you're a person right now in the service, you want to get out and you know it's for you in your heart, then you should don't let other people stop you from doing it because of it's stable, you know? But once I was a wind turbine technician, you're right, Joe. I was making great money. I was making per diem, and I was averaging, anywhere from 8 to 12K a month, depending on the job site, the contract, what we were doing. And I plateaued. I was in my young, tw I got out at 21 years old from the military, Joe. And so for 3 years I was working. I'm still what, 24, making averaging 8 to 12 grand a month. And imagine that, Joe. What happens when a young man, you're giving him that much more money and he has no real purpose, no real drive, and they say a man with no purpose seeks pleasure. And so I was getting into vices, I was getting into distractions. I was losing myself and I was constantly on the road, so I could never set a foundation. I could never set my roots.
Mhm.
I would get taken up onto the next site, taken up onto the next site. And so what had happened was I ended up plateauing, and in my mind I was the big fish in the little pond because no one I knew was making that type of income from either the military or from where I grew up from, and so I thought I made it in my mind. What you said, Joe, that linear kind of mindset. I thought that was it. I made it. I don't need a college degree. I went to the military. I served my country, and I'm making five figures, almost five figures a month. And then one day, all of a sudden, a good buddy of mine that I served in Japan with, he reached out to me and he was always into finances, investing, and all that stuff and business. And he presented an opportunity to me. And in that moment, Joe, this is where everybody has a fork in the road in life, where you get presented an opportunity and it's up to you to take it or just keep doing what you're doing. And in that moment, I got presented with a fork in the road and I said, okay, either I keep doing what I'm doing, and yes, the money is great and I'm stable somewhat, but I'm not fulfilled. And I know where my future lies because all my coworkers are in their 40s and 50s and 60s still climbing these turbines, Joe,
Mhm.
young guy out of the military, and my body was still kind of like being affected. So imagine that, fully, out of the military. And I said, but here's this opportunity. It's a big question mark. Nothing's guaranteed, but the potential is limitless. And that's when, after fighting, going back and forth right there, Joe, with myself, I ripped the band-aid off. I made a decision. I jumped all in into that opportunity. And let's just say the enemy tried to say lies into my head about it, try to put doubt, fear, but I operated in faith. I jumped in and I learned and I became a student of the industry, a student of business, student of entrepreneurship. And I got so obsessed, super hyper focused and obsessed with business, entrepreneurship, money, and I started doing both at the same time. And I was just testing it out, Joe. I said, okay, let's see which one starts doing the thing that I wanted to do. And slowly but surely, business started replacing my main income. And
Mhm.
I started, Joe, I was like, oh man, like this is becoming real. This is kind of scary, you know? And like I said, ripped the band-aid off, went all in full time, and the rest is history. So, yeah.
Yeah. So Yeah, I think a number of times in life you run across like you're about to take a risk and go do something, and you usually your friends and family, the people closest to you will try to talk you out of it and try to sabotage those ideas. I mean, they're kind of looking out for you, but people are very comfortable with guaranteed mediocrity as opposed to something that's risky but yet unlimited potential.
Yeah. Oh, I like that, Joe. Guaranteed mediocrity. Wow. I like that. I'm taking that, Joe. It's on air. I'm
Yeah,
taking that.
I, I heard it from someone else. It's not original, so feel free. It is.
But
It's
it's
like
true.
people
True.
very comfortable
Yes.
with guaranteed mediocrity.
Yeah. It's like when you're the sheep in the herd and you become the black sheep, everybody else looks at you because you're trying to do something different. And just those looks and those opinions and those side conversations about what you're doing
Mhm.
could make or break what you're going to do in life. But you just have to go for it. Be the black sheep, you
Yeah,
know?
there's a number of times I learned over the years, like if I get a new idea, I test it out when I can, but I don't even like telling people about it because I don't want to hear their negative response. I'm like, I don't have any, my idea is so fragile and young, untested
Mhm.
that any little negative comment might destroy it.
Yeah. Well, I would say, Joe, and also the thing about it is that when you first start in entrepreneurship or business, the biggest mistake is that you think everybody thinks like you. And that's the
It's
biggest
true.
issue. You think everybody thinks like you, and you're just excited. You're like, man, I found the gold. Like, if I think this way, I can't wait to present it to my loved ones, to my friends, to my family. And then quickly you realize, whoa, never mind that, right? Like, and so as you grow, you start realizing that yes, Joe, there's certain things that you want to keep to yourself, and you work in private, and then they're gonna celebrate. They're gonna celebrate and clap for you in public for the things you did in private,
Yeah.
but they're not gonna clap for you when you're doing the things in private.
So, so what is this vehicle to the fight that you started working on when you were still the wind turbine technician?
Yeah, great question, Joe. I got into financial services. So, being in financial services, I realized that, I'm not super smart. I'm not special. For those that are listening or watching this, I'm just a kid from Brooklyn, raised by a single mother. And statistically speaking, I'm not even supposed to be here right now, statistically speaking, right? So, anybody could beat the odds, and your past does not determine your future. But I realized, I said, okay, I'm not, unless I'm in, like, there's three ways to become wealthy. There's three industries. There's finances, there's tech, and there's real estate. And number one, I don't see myself inventing any app anytime soon, right? I'm not Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, so I'm just a Marine, I'm a double dog, right? They eat some crayons, okay? Um, and real estate, unless you're investing into real estate, I couldn't see myself being a realtor because it's not that profitable in today's market being a realtor.
Hmm.
Investing, it's a little bit different. And then I said financial services. I said, okay, hold up. Everything revolves around money, and people don't understand money. So there's a big disconnect, meaning who's going to be the person in the middle that can help person A understand money? And 70% of Americans right now, Joe, are not on track to retire. And more than 65% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. And more than 68% of Americans have never even made a financial plan. So I love helping. I love giving back. I want to serve. That's why I joined that's why I joined to serve my country. And then I said, okay, perfect. Well, here's a hole in the boat in the marketplace. No one's really doing anything about it. No one's talking about it. How can I bring my skills and my value in and be that mediator to educate those that don't understand money to get money? And then the person in the middle is the one with the transaction that earns an income. So it was financial services, Joe.
Yeah. So can you go into any more details?
Yeah, so very simple. All we do right here, Joe, is we show people how to build wealth, preserve wealth, pay less in taxes, become your own bank, wills and trusts. It's called estate planning, right? And legacy planning. So for us, what we focus on is we show people how to plan for the future, whether it's not an if, but when things go bad, not an if, but when you have to retire, not an if, but when you need money. Make sense? Most people, Joe, just wing it when it comes to finances, when it comes to their budget, when it comes to their retirement plan, when it comes to their finances. And so that's what we focus on. And I started realizing, wow, the more people that I sit with people, Joe, from all walks of life, from coast to coast. People who are 18 to people in their 60s and 70s, and they're all at different financial situations. You'll be surprised. I've met people in their 20s, they're financially savvy and they have a good amount in their savings, and I met people in their 50s and 60s where they have less than $1,000 in their bank account.
Hmm.
And it's completely different dynamics. And I had to talk to these people and give them a guideline, give them a skeleton to build financial success. And so then I started realizing when I created that solution, Joe, I started getting paid for my value, not my time. And it was a very lucrative value, just to put it like that right there, Joe. So that's what we focus on. And I'm super grateful to be in this position to give people those resources.
So, how long ago did you start?
I started in February of 2020. So December of 2022 is when the opportunity presented itself. And because I was operating in fear, Joe, right? False evidence appearing real because I was stuck in that linear mindset you were talking about. Um, and I called the opportunity a scam because in my mind, I thought hard work makes you money. That's all I knew, like most Americans.
Hmm.
And but what is scam? Scam stands for still confused about money. And then it wasn't until I started having multiple conversations and really getting involved with the individuals who are being successful in this industry that I said, hold up, I'm over here saying that what I'm doing is the right path, but yet there are houses worth $30 million. There's cars worth six figures. So I took the leap, I jumped in, and then in February of 2023 is when I passed my state and federal license exam to conduct business, to have my certifications. And then March of 2023 is when I really got the hang of it, really started going after it because I was working from 5 a.m. to 8 p.m. every single night, from Monday through Sunday. I mean, Monday through Saturday. So I had to fix my schedule, I had to learn how to be more disciplined with that. And then 6 months in, I was able to quit my job and go all in and I, make multiple six-figure income working from home and become my own boss. So
Yeah.
ever since the summer of 2023, I haven't worked a job and I haven't had a boss, Joe. It's really amazing.
So, what's the name? Is the name of the company is the name of the company your company, or what's the name of it?
So this company right here is called Global Financial Impact, and as an independent contractor, I'm an agency owner within the company. And so what a company like this offers, it allows individuals who, there's a difference between being an entrepreneur and being an intrapreneur, right? An entrepreneur starts from scratch and still has to carry the burden. An entrepreneur doesn't necessarily have to start from scratch. There's fundamentals, but you still have to operate like an entrepreneur because hey, if you don't get up and you don't work, you don't make money. You don't make an income. So this company right here is a platform that allows individuals to jump in, start from scratch with some fundamentals and with some tools, with some with backing and whatnot, and then it's your playground. Now the company and what you create from this, from being with this company, is a reflection of your weaknesses and your strengths. That's what I tell people all the time, Joe. When you become a partner with myself, it's not going to be easy, but it's simple. But then this business's opportunity shows your strengths and your weaknesses. When you find your strengths, great, grab onto it, build them. When you find your weaknesses, it's going to be uncomfortable, and most people don't want to talk about their weaknesses. But for those that work on their weaknesses, they're the ones making 6 to 7 figures. And for the ones that they go, oh no, this is just uncomfortable, they go back to the mediocrity you were talking about, Joe. So yes, this is not my company. I operate under as an agency owner within the company, but it's I'm running the business, Joe. Yeah.
So, what's some of the day to day, or what are the products you're selling?
Yeah, so the day-to-day is very simple. All I do is, I typically start my day from like 9 to about 9 a.m. to 9 or 10 to 9, and that's my green time. And that's when I'm doing meetings. I'm doing one-on-one coachings with new agents who are licensed. Doing meetings with some of my personal clients, helping them create retirement plans, pension plans, wills and trusts. Or I'm doing like trainings with multiple brokers. Like last night, I ended a training call with my agency around like 8 p.m. and I was teaching them how to actually submit business and do good business and do role play different strategies, scripts, trainings, things of that nature. So that's my time frame. Before I start my business, before I start the day, Joe, I wake up usually around 6:30 or 7, and I work out, self-develop, pray, take care of myself. And after business, that's why I decompose and I just answer emails, answer some text messages, get back to some people, and then pre-plan for the following day. And with that being said, Joe, that allows me financial freedom because And financial independence, I mean, because there's days where I can just block out my entire calendar and go do what I want to do and then just open up my calendar for the following day, you know? And then some of the products that we do here, Joe, we talked about is we focus on insurance and annuity strategies, right? And obviously, I can be here all day with you, Joe, speaking about some of those products and services. For those that want to learn about it, get with me because it gets really in depth. But with insurance and annuities, when you do it correctly with the right strategies, with the right tax codes, IRC codes, structured correctly, you can create infinite wealth, like the Rockefellers did. And that's what we do for people. We say we create generational wealth with insurance and annuities.
So if somebody's interested in this, where do they go to get more information?
Yeah, very simple, Joe. Like the easiest way to get a hold of me, number one, is in my Instagram. And in my Instagram, I have a link in my bio that has access to multiple other of my social medias like TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook, and whatnot. But in my bio, Joe, I have two links. One of them can allow you to learn a little bit more about the industry I'm in, how it works, how our compensation structure works, what is it we're doing, where our values stand, and what kind of environment you're going to be in, what kind of organization you're going to get involved with. And then I also have a link for those who are like, you know what? I want to get involved. I want to get my hands dirty. I want to change my life forever. I want to make more money. I want to have a better life. I want to give back to my family. There's a link that says become a partner. And when you fill that out, you can meet with me one on one and we'll have a conversation and see if I'm a good fit for you and you're a good fit for me. And we'll go from there right there, Joe. But it's in my Instagram. It's the best way to get a hold of me. And I can say my Instagram right now, Joe, if you
Yeah,
need
go
me
ahead.
to.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so my Instagram is gonna be Zavala, Zavala underscore Edgar, Edgar 25. So Zavala underscore Edgar 25. Click the link in my bio, or if you want to just stalk me, right, you can go to and see everything that I've done. Joe, in my Instagram, I have from my very beginnings. I don't hide anything. You can see my transition from where I used to be a kid from Brooklyn to the military to blue collar to entrepreneurship. It's all there.
Awesome. All right, Edgar. Well, we're getting close to the end of our time. So, if you're talking to somebody on the way out of the military, wanting to get involved in entrepreneurship, run their own show, what kind of advice comes to mind?
Man, I would say. It gets me excited, right? Because when you get out the military, you're ahead of the pack. You really are ahead of the pack because you leave with so much skill set. You leave with so much value and a core basis, right? In the Marine Corps, we have honor, courage, commitment. And so now you leave the military with this dogma of honor, courage, commitment, and then you also leave with the ability to have discipline. When uniform inspections, I say all the time, like when we had uniform inspections, we had to always make sure we were squared away. And that being squared away with my uniform allowed me to be squared away in my task, and now allows me to be squared away in my business. So if I was to tell someone right now who's leaving out the military, you have to make two decisions. You have to say, okay, what kind of future do I want? Do I want to just climb up the corporate ladder or do I want to own the corporate ladder? If you want to climb up the corporate ladder, great. Go through like a skill bridge program or go through a program with the military, get a degree. I would suggest STEM, maybe STEM or finances, right, Joe? And then go that route, or maybe be a blue collar. Go do a program like I did. I went through a program and get certifications and licenses so that you can be a blue collar guy, right? Welding, lineman, wind turbine technician, engineer, and it pays well. But remember about your body, guys. For those listening, if you're gonna become a blue collar guy, remember your body can only make you so much money. It's gonna give up at one point in time. But the third option, if you are about to get the military and you're listening right now and you're hungry, you're motivated, you're driven, you're eager, you want more in life, you feel like you were destined for more, I would suggest number one, getting connected with me, but getting into sales and getting to the right type of sales where now you can get paid by your value. You can get paid for leveraging your time, not trading your time. I say all the time, Joe, there's a cash flow quadrant. I'm sure you heard of the cash flow quadrant.
Oh, yeah.
Number one is employee. It means you're an employee, right? You have a job. You trade time for money. Then next is self-employed. You're your own boss, but now you own a job. The next one is business owner. Now you leverage the time of others. And the next one is investor. So we teach people how to become a business owner and an investor. And the sooner you could do it, the more fun you're gonna have in your life, Joe. So that's what I would suggest for those about to get out to make those decisions.
Awesome. All right, Edgar. Well, we're out of time, so appreciate you sharing your veteran entrepreneurial success story, and look forward to seeing your future success out there.
Appreciate it. Thank you for having me, Joe, and looking forward to helping so many people.
All right, these two Marines are asking Mike.